Well, meantime, the Biden administration facing blowback for its decision not to single out Saudi Arabia's crown prince for sanctions. Mohammed bin Salman's name was conspicuously missing from the list of dozens of Saudis now banned from entering the US as punishment for the 2018 killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This, even though a US intelligence report says bin Salman personally approved the Khashoggi operation. Here's what the White House had to say.
Historically, the United States, through Democratic and Republican presidents, has not typically sanctioned government leaders of countries where we have diplomatic relations.
Well, officials also say going after systemic issues in the kingdom is the best way to prevent more killings like Khashoggi's. Well, not everybody agrees. Democratic Congressman Tom Malinowski, vice chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, tweeted, quote, "I applaud President Biden for declassifying the finding that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, but naming MBS without holding him accountable undercuts our message to the Saudis." Today, Representative Andy Kim and I introduced a bill to correct this. Well, Tom Malinowski joins me now by Skype from Washington. Your bill, as I understand it, will effectively affirms that, well, it certainly affirms that the Crown Prince will be denied entry into the US and requires the administration to certify the Saudis are no longer engaging in a pattern of intimidating their critics in the US as a condition for further arms sales. Sir, have you received a response or reaction to this yet?
I've been speaking to the Biden administration, and you know, I really do applaud what they did. It's a big deal for the president of the United States to say that that MBS, the putative leader of Saudi Arabia, is a killer, and that he was responsible for this particular murder. That's going to follow MBS for the rest of his life. But it is important that there be some consequence attached to that. Otherwise, we're going to continue to signal to the Saudis that somehow MBS is in a special protected category, that he can continue to get away with this kind of stuff in the future, and that somehow the United States is more afraid of losing favor in Riyadh than Riyadh is afraid of losing favor in Washington. It should be the other way around.
76 Saudis are now banned from entering the US as part of America's efforts, it seems, to punish Saudi Arabia over the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Washington, though, sir, with respect, has made its position very clear. Saudi Arabia is a US ally, and there are other ways to teach them a lesson than punishing the Crown Prince. I just want our viewers to have a listen to what Middle East commentator Ali Shehabi told the BBC about this.
At the end of the day, they realize and they understand that the Crown Prince is playing a very important role in restructuring the country, in fighting reactionary Islamic ideas and movements in the region and in Saudi Arabia, and in implementing very important change.
A lot of that is true, well supported around this region, and a lot of Saudis inside the country do like the Crown Prince for the changes, the difficult changes that he is undertaking. So that does indeed beg the question, is the good you are getting better than the bad? I guess the point is the White House drawing a line under this, and there will be those who suggest that you do the same, to which you say what? Or to whom you say what?
Well, I think it's interesting that people are now arguing that this is an important relationship, and that the United States needs to take it upon ourselves to protect this relationship. Well, what are we protecting it from? We're protecting it from the absolutely reckless actions of Mohammed bin Salman. This is a Saudi leader who, unlike any previous Saudi leader, reached beyond Saudi Arabia into the United States to murder an American resident, a Washington Post journalist, somebody who does the same job that you do, in effect. And that you don't do that. That's not a human rights issue. That is an affront and an attack on the United States. You don't claim to be a United States ally and do that. And MBS was not the only person in the United States that, that Jamal Khashoggi was not the only person in the United States that MBS tried to kill, apparently. So it is absolutely vital for the preservation of a healthy relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia to draw a line and to say, you do not do this. And if you do this or any other leader around the world does this, they will be held accountable.
I mean, the Biden argument is that keeping good relations with its key ally in the Gulf is in America's interests. And we've heard that argument, and it's been laid out now a number of times by the White House since the release of the or the declassification of that report. So I do want to just get your thoughts on Yemen, which, of course, both Saudi Arabia and the US have a stake in. Yesterday was the pledging donor conference for Yemen, the UN Secretary General calling it disappointing, and that was the least of what he said. Funds fell far short of the $3.75 billion aid target. Jan Egeland, the head of the NRC, who was visiting Yemen on the ground, told me this.
I can be very clear. The shortfall will be measured in lives lost, in children's lives lost. The children and the youth, the women, the most vulnerable, whom we all must agree have nothing to do with this senseless conflict among grown men that on both sides are willing to quarrel and fight each other to the last child.
The US pledging $191 million, sir. As Vice Chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I just want to pick your brain on what you believe, or what more you believe the US should be doing in Yemen to avoid a famine in 2021.
Yeah. Well, in just 3 weeks, the Biden administration has turned our policy towards Yemen around. As you know, the Trump administration was backing the Saudis, providing military assistance vital to Saudi Arabia, keeping this war going. That has now ended. That puts a lot of pressure on the Saudis to come to the table. Biden has appointed a U.S. envoy to promote a diplomatic solution to this horrible conflict. And at the same time, yeah, we absolutely do need to do more, and I would support spending more to deal with the humanitarian situation. But, you know, I can't help bringing it back to our previous conversation. The reason why we are spending billions of dollars to try to keep people in Yemen alive is because Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman started a war that everybody urged him not to because he recklessly believed that he could get away with it. And now we have to clean up the mess that Saudi Arabia helped to create. We have to clean it up because we have an obligation, a humanitarian obligation to do so. But let's not forget who bears ultimate responsibility. I'd like to see the Saudis and the Emiratis pay for this, by the way. They can afford to do it. They created the problem. They should not be turning only to the United States and the Norwegians and the Brits and the French to, again, pay for cleaning up their mess.
430 million. Let's be transparent about this. $430 million pledged by Saudi Arabia, $230 million pledged by the Emiratis, and $6 billion spent by them, I am told, over the past 6 years in aid, not through the UN track necessarily. And the argument in this region, certainly from the Saudi Arabia, from the kingdom, is that this the threat posed by the Houthis is an existential threat to Saudi Arabia. But so you've made your points, and we appreciate your time on this show. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.